panel discussion. We are short a superintendent that was supposed to do all the talking. I'm not sure where he's at, but anyway. So I want to take this time right now really quickly just to introduce, just for those of you that don't know, this is Rich Duvarney. He is our County Superintendent of Public Schools. My boss. Todd is not here, so we'll skip him. Then Jared Kaler, who's the new superintendent of Corning Union High School. We have Bill Gaines down here from Transfer Flow. We have Don Robinson from New Glen Community College, the welding technology instructor, of which I now get to put a name with a face in an email, because I hadn't met him until now. Just emails. So with that, we have questions. We'd like them to see the questions, the test ahead of time. I'm not sure if they know the answers, but they got the questions. So we wanted to do the introductions. Sorry, these got to go on now. So we're going to let you kind of take a chance and go, or take time and tell us what you can on the questions. If you feel like you can't answer a whole lot of it, then pass it along, no problem. So the first one is, tell us about your specific CTE pathway initiatives in the North State region at your institutions or districts, and how you're making them grow or help them to grow.
Good afternoon. So I'm in a little different situation because I'm the county superintendent, so I don't have a bunch of high school kids and that kind of stuff. So as a county, we're really moving in a direction of re-emphasizing CTE. So, you know, we went through that whole era of NCLB and we said, oh, all that really matters is English language arts and math, and forget all that other stuff. And so now we're back to the good stuff. The only way I got through high school is by going through wood shop and PE. That was pretty much my passion, so, and sports, so that's what got me through high school. So as far as the Department of Ed in Tehama County, we have a strong vision for CTE, for manufacturing, with our relationship with Bill, and our whole Bridge to College and Career folks have just taken the bull by the horns. I mean, we've got the grant through CDE, and it makes all this possible, and they just have that passion for giving kids opportunities to work with their hands. And we have some of our most intelligent kids that we come across, and those are the kids that are going into these fields, and that's what we want to see. It's not the old model of, oh, you can't be successful academically, so we're going to throw you out here in the wood shop. That's not the case anymore. So I've got good friends that don't have college educations, but they're the smartest people that I know. And so as we harvest these kids out of our middle schools and our high schools, and we send them in this direction, that's where our communities are going to prosper. So I'm not sure what the rest of your question was, but
it's kind of how are you your specific CTE pathway initiatives in North State in your region at your institution? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah.
These programs.
All right, and Corning High.
Any initiatives?
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. As my introduction stated, I'm relatively new and I'm not from a CTE background, but I have been learning quite a bit quickly this year, overseeing our district and learning a lot about our CTE offerings and what we're looking to do for students. I think the first thing I'd say is I'm thankful to be serving in a district where, despite the emphasis on accountability, No Child Left Behind that Rich was mentioning there, our district has maintained a pretty solid commitment to career technical education through these ups and downs. And so from the old ROP model through now to the CTE model, there was a gap there of a few years, especially as it relates to funding, and our board and our district leadership through the years has maintained that commitment, so that's good. And so since we maintained that, I was asked the question actually earlier, what new programs have we started in the last couple of years? And we do have some new initiatives, but by and large, we have just been able to maintain and build on and grow some of the programs that were already in place. So we have a residential and commercial construction program that was born out of our more traditional wood shop, ag mechanics, ag science, forestry and natural resources, product innovation and design, which encompasses some manufacturing, visual media arts, patient care, performing arts, education, food service, hospitality, and entrepreneurship are all pathways that are offered in our district. And so I would say the residential and commercial construction and some of the investment in manufacturing have been two big areas that our district has transitioned in the last couple of years, and we're looking to grow more in those areas. So,
Phil, you've got a mic, so I'll let you just turn it.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Bill Gaines, Senior Engineer and Chairman at TransferFlow, and some of the things that we've been involved with all have to do around this bloody bar graph. This is direct output per job, and I hope every one of you educators grab one of these. You'll find it there in the exhibit area. $616,000 for just one manufacturing employee as compared to $129,000 for a retail job. You want to grow your communities, you want more ADA? Grow your manufacturing sector, because that's where it's going to come from. We can do this, we can increase the prosperity of our North State. And in order to do that, we need the 21st century workforce. We need those skills that we've been talking about. Basically G-code, as Titan has been talking about, absolutely essential. SolidWorks, inventor fine, SolidWorks, 90% of our Grow Manufacturing Initiative members use SolidWorks. That's the key, that's where it is today. We have a manufacturing expo once a year. We just finished our 4th expo. 3,500 students from all across Northern California came and looked at the exhibits, looked at our manufacturing companies. They took tours through the engineering labs at Chico State, and they took classes if they chose to. It's grown every year, year over year. We've started training the trainer classes for the last, we've done 5 of them. Basically, we've done G-code, write the G-code, make this part. Nine high school teachers, 1 community college teacher learned it in 3 days. Chris Scheib, one of our guys right there that took the class. And Chris has a Haas Vertical Machining Center up there, also a Tormac, 2 Tormacs, that's right. Gary Pope has 3, by the way. Thank you very much. They've done a terrific job. Gary Pope and Nolan Key basically have done a terrific job at Corning. We're seeing some real movement there, and I'm real excited about what Titan's done. I think that's going to augment where we're moving in the future. We've been a call center. So if someone has a question like Brett Richards on the down speed of his Haas mini mill, I think Gary responded. I believe Scott Brocken from Chico State. We had Chris, you responded, the period in wrong spot. So we're trying to work together to fix these problems on the fly and not have to go to Haas or someplace else to fix it. Work as a collaborative effort. Everybody working together so that we're teaching these kids the kinds of skills that we need in the manufacturing sector.
Hello, I'm Don Robinson. On Butte College's side, there's several robust CTE pathways that we have. We're kind of going to the guided pathway model to help students come into the community college and also find out what they want to do and what career path they want to choose from there. As far as the welding side and manufacturing, that's probably our strongest suit, especially on the welding side. And also the college and the community made an investment. We had a local bond passed, and we're building a new manufacturing and welding facility. It's approximately 60,000 square foot facility that should be online and running fall of 19. At that stage, we will be increasing the number of students that we can handle in our welding classes and completing that welding program. From there, in 19, we will also start our manufacturing program. Currently, we've been purchasing equipment and working on curriculum development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If one of you can just give me one answer, maybe we can go through this question too. What is the biggest disconnect that you see from high school to college to the workforce, and and what do you feel would be an area that we should concentrate at each of these levels? So if you could think of like one disconnect, if you could sum it up, like, maybe that can't be summed up really simple, but maybe some of you have that idea of where it is.
I really think it's articulation. It's just from one institution to the other, whether, you know, it's the high school, the community college, to the manufacturing plant. And so with Bill's help, we're in a situation now in this area where we can actually have those conversations and they can tell us what's needed down at the high school level. But if you don't have forum for those conversations, then you know, you're just stuck. You don't know what's expected. So I think articulation is probably the biggest thing in my mind.
I guess I would agree with that. We've got to get away from the 20 to 40-year-old technologies we're teaching in high school. We got to get the teachers to be educated in the technologies and engineering practices we're using and help support you with both materials and as a call center. And I think we're going in the right direction. And I'm so proud of Tehama County specifically. All three of the high schools here have G-code, have SolidWorks, teaching pulse welding. And those are some of the things. Lean manufacturing is another area that we need to start working on in the lean area. Being more efficient, that's what that means.
Yeah, I mean, from Corning High School's perspective, I think I was going to kind of defer to Bill there because I think this is somewhat of an industry question, right? What are they looking for from our students that we're not providing? But I think that does get to this idea that, you know, for the high school, we have this push for college career readiness. And I think what we have seen over the last few years, which is positive, is this re-emphasis on the career piece, understanding that what we want for our students is for them to be able to make a living within the community in which they've grown up if they choose to do so. And so we don't want to push our best and brightest out. We want to keep our best and brightest here and allow them to make a living for themselves and their families here. And so for us, that disconnect is about understanding what skill set or what knowledge our kids need to have when they leave. And I think we're making progress in that area, but understanding what the current market is demanding of our students in terms of a workforce is where we need to grow.
I think those are all valid points, and the thing that I would add to that is, and Bill's been an advocate on this side, is making sure that high school, community college, and industry are all communicating, collaborating, and working together. And you see that in the Grow Manufacturing Initiative and everything that is going on in Tehama and Butte counties.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So along with that is, what is the best way to motivate industry partners to be proactive with educational institutions? So not just get them involved by our efforts, but how do we convince them that this is, essential to their futures as well, and get them to proactively engage with educational institutions? Does anybody have any thoughts or ideas about that? Bill, I'm thinking you do. But
Okay, I'll take that one on. Grow Manufacturing Initiative is what we created. It's about 100 different companies. They're manufacturers, suppliers, resource companies in this area. We also have a GMI Shasta now, and we're GMI Solano and now in Sacramento, a similar organization where we're getting a lot of manufacturers together, collaborating, and then basically ascertaining what is their biggest issues and trying to use GMI, like JJ, you want to hold your hand up? JJ is our project coordinator for Grow Manufacturing, and so I think we're trying to use JJ to basically be the spokesman for our manufacturers, and basically taking the message to the advisory committees that all the high schools want to meet their grant needs, and to work with community colleges and with Chico State to try to basically work together. None of us have the time individually. We manufacturers typically, I can tell you from experience, we don't get there. We get to our jobs before dawn and we go home after dark, just like Titan was talking about. That's a fact, and the time that we have is limited. We don't play golf. We can't join Kiwanis, unfortunately, which I'd love to do, but that's reality. So that's why Grow Manufacturing might be the answer to helping. Okay.
Anybody else want to add to how to motivate?
So as far as industry goes and buying into our high school and community college and even our state system, it's always, as an instructor, it's always important to go out to manufacturers and facilities. That's how I first met Bill, actually. And we started an event called ARC Exposure. And that's been going on for 10 years at Butte College, and over the past few years we've even expanded it, and it's gotten to the point where you had to turn high schools away, unfortunately. But that's a huge commitment, not only on the college side but also industry side. We did something a little bit different. I know other community colleges do kind of the same event. Ours is a little bit different in the sense that we wanted to go out and showcase what was going on in industry and show high school students the opportunities that are out there for them. And I think that that's worked very well. And Bill's hosted a couple of tours over the years that we've been doing that event, but that's one way to link industry back into education.
We have a lot of questions. We're trying to narrow it down.
We're running out of time. I'll ask this one. Apprenticeships throughout history have been very effective ways to teach skills, both technical and soft skills. So what is the most effective model of apprenticeship that you know of in your context, and what are some of its major components?
I have my druthers on apprenticeships, to be frank. Okay. Yeah, the problem with small companies is the big issue. But what we have been doing is we've been doing pre-tour, post-tour tours. And the pre-tour, we've been tours of our facilities, a variety of our grow manufacturing companies. And in order to come to us, they have to do a pre-tour one-page paper before the student comes to our facility. And we get a chance to talk to them about what it takes to be an employee at our company. For an example, we expect the application to be free of spelling errors, and we need to be able to read it. If we can't read it, it's not getting past the receptionist. Yeah, thank you. The other one is we expect an applicant to know something about our company. We're not looking for someone coming off the street and just getting a job. We want them to be with us for many years. And so we want them to understand what we do before they come to our facilities. And when we do the tours, we have that opportunity to tell them this. And we also talk to them about, think about the job that fits your talent. What do you really like to do? Because if you like to do something, you're going to be successful at that. So we have 40 different careers at our plant. And the post-tour paper is they have to pick one of those 40 jobs that fits their talent best. They have to answer 7 questions. And by the way, the pre-tour, no one comes to our plant until I get them and I read them. So the teacher has to make sure they PDF them and send them to us. And then the post-tour, what we do is we basically try to get those back. That's more difficult to get because there's no need to really do it. Although what we're trying to do is we're trying to find out what these kids' interests are, and then our next step is shadowing. I've got 7 companies in the Grow Manufacturing Initiative that are willing to shadow. And so if we could vet those kids that do the post-tour, and then basically give them an opportunity, so this is the apprenticeship type, basically give them an opportunity to come down and work behind, or shadow behind, that particular career, say accounting. We'll take them to one company for 2 hours, then they'll pick them up in a van, feed them lunch, and take them to another company for a couple hours, to give them the opportunity to see in real life what that particular career is. If that's what they want to do, we expect the high school that's bringing these kids to reset their curriculum and prepare them for that job. That's that's the high school's responsibility. And Red Bluff has done this. We would love to do it more often, and but in order to do it, you need to do a pre-tour and a post-tour in order to do it. So that's the kind of apprenticeships we do. Just FYI, one more last thing. Until they're 18, I can't put them on the production floor. So until labor laws change, we got a problem. So that's my opinion.
At Butte College in the welding program, we've set up a partnership with several different industries, PG&E being one of our largest ones. RF McDonald is a boiler company serving basically from LA all the way up to the Oregon border and over into Nevada. So our students, I guess our apprenticeship is a little bit different, looks a little bit different, but it works for our students. We've had several graduates out of, a couple out of Red Bluff, Corning, and PV, and Chico be hired on with PG&E. And kind of how our apprenticeship program looks in this sense is these industry partners such as PG&E, the welding journeymen and apprentices are coming in and talking to our students, doing on-site training with our students, and then they leave and our students are practicing that skill set. We as instructors are going down to San Ramon and receiving training from PG&E, bringing that back to the class. So it's all of us working together, and I think that that's what makes a positive apprenticeship program. None of these students are being hired as, they're being hired as apprentices, but they're not being hired as journeymans or anything else. It's not an official apprenticeship program because the state has certain rules that follow that. So our setup is just extremely different, but it works well for Butte College.
Yeah, that touches a little bit on what I was going to say. So from the high school district's perspective, our aim is to get our students into these, like I said before, into these jobs where they can make a living for their family, regardless of what that looks like. And so sometimes, and the question used the term apprenticeship, but we've obviously delineated a little bit between a more formal apprenticeship or a more informal one. And so we are exploring ways to formally connect with apprenticeship programs, probably through our construction, residential and commercial construction, but we also have formal articulation. I know like Nolan's got one with Butte College. I think we have some with Shasta College too in terms of welding. So we have some of those. So we're exploring formal partnerships with apprenticeship programs. We have some formal articulation set up with community college, and then additionally, more along the lines of what Bill was suggesting, trying to do informal things with industry partners. But for us, it all comes back to plugging students into pipelines where they're going to be able to, whether formally or informally, connect with those good jobs.
Okay, so we're just going to have this go to you guys now. If you have any questions that you would like to ask the panelists, this is your cue if you have any questions that you would like to ask them. Yes.
I think this one goes to Rich primarily. Current state budgets look like they're going in a positive direction for us. But we all know 1 year later what they could look like. The real side of that is what do we do when the downturn comes again? What is the long-term plan of California and our local area administration in solving the problem of the hot valleys that we're going to wind up going through?
Great question. Thanks for that one. Really appreciate that. Yeah. Actually, from the state standpoint, believe it or not, Governor Brown has actually put in some fairly conservative views in regards to funding schools. So they have kind of this this fund that they're putting money in. It's a little appropriately funded, and then when the downturn comes statewide, then there's that fund still there, so that it keeps us at a reasonable level. So that's kind of at the state level. Our districts, under the local control funding formula, some of them are real winners and some of them are real losers, depending on their number of unduplicated students. So, you know, you have a wealthy district, or not a wealthy district, you have a district that doesn't have a lot of foster youth or low socioeconomic or English learners, and their budget is much smaller than a district that has those three groups that are higher. So right within our county, we have districts that really are doing well financially, and they're really at a surplus, and they can kind of sock away those funds for that time. And then we have districts that they're not winners in this situation, and there's not a lot of really good solutions for those districts. So it's really at the local level, it's really going to depend on the district circumstances, whether they can weather the storm. You know, from a governance standpoint, we're hoping that school boards see that, you know, whatever level of funding we're at, it's not going to be here forever. There's going to be a downturn at some point, and so hopefully there's enough reserve, at least there's something in the coffer, so that we can sustain these programs. And in a sense, as we invest in equipment, maybe that's a motivation to say, hey, look, we've got all this investment in equipment and in personnel, you know, we better stick with this and commit to it. So locally it's a little less predictable, depending on the district.
And I think as a whole, as a state, we also need to invest in training new instructors. As we look around the room, myself included, the gray is starting to set in. Yeah, cover up. But you don't see a lot of newer talent coming through. And kind of over the past few years, tried to take that upon myself. I know as students are going through the welding program and pinpointing, hey, you would be a great teacher. Because that's what it took when I was going through a program, actually at Butte College, and that instructor saying, hey, you'd be a good instructor. So I think we need to make sure that we're making that investment, because as we move on or move out for retirement, who's going to champion our programs? And that's going to be a key piece as we move forward.
I would just, on the funding side of things too, I mentioned it earlier that I'm fortunate to work in a district where the emphasis on career technical education has been there for a long time, and I think part of that is just helping school boards and school leadership understand how career technical education fits into an overall educational program. And so oftentimes I think in other areas it's viewed as this other thing that we do that encroaches on the general fund. So when we look at funding mechanisms, Rich was talking about the LCFF, the local control funding, we get this pot of money, and if you look at our yearly budget, you'll see that career technical education encroaches. We spend some of that pot of money on CTE. But if we think of it in terms of this is an educational program for all of our students that's preparing our workforce for all of our community, then it doesn't, we don't really think of it in terms of an encroachment any more than we would special education or maintenance and operations or transportation. These are all things that are essential to our mission as educators. And so that message, becoming a culture within a district, helps maintain the funding when it does this.
I'd like to add one thing there is some of the things that we have to start thinking outside the box too. So for an example, Brett Richards has a CNC press brake. Why not Los Molinas and Corning work with you guys, work with Red Bluff to basically get all those students to basically come on up to Red Bluff, for an example, and learn how to run a CNC press brake. You know, we have to start thinking about those sorts of things. We push the idea of a manufacturing makerspace trailer as a possibility to cover some of the frontier schools. And whereas Modoc High School is teaching drafting on mechanical drafting machines still, that's terrible. That's unfortunate for the student, especially if that student wants to go in engineering, because if he comes to Chico State, he's going to fail SolidWorks because he has no idea what that is. We need to think regionally, in my opinion, more so, and not just between just the high school itself. That's what I think.
I'm just kind of curious because I go to a lot of, I guess, conferences with other CTE teachers, and one of the topics that always comes up is, did you get your credential? How's your credential coming along? Do you find that, there's a challenge in finding CTE teachers that do or are having a hard time getting their credential? Because it wasn't easy for me, and it was almost I almost said, forget this, I'm just gonna go back to teaching science. And that just seems like a big deterrent for getting good quality CTE teachers in the industry. So I just wanted to get your opinion on that.
Or you pass it down here.
So, I can relate more on the welding side. And from Butte College as a whole, it is very hard to find qualified instructors. There's certain requirements that need to be met, so that makes it more challenging. When you get to the CTE side of the house, and we all know this, we can make more money out in industry than we can teaching. So that's probably a big deterrent from what's happening. If you were to say to a student, hey, you can make $75,000 being a teacher versus $125,000 out in the field, they're probably going to go out in the field every time because they're seeing the dollars there. So that's a big deterrent to them when they start seeing dollars. On our side, that's where I get back to, we need to start educating and kind of helping people along the way and get that accomplished so that there is a larger pool to capture there as far as instruction.
Again, I'm relatively new, I don't have a ton of experience with this, but I think the short answer is yes, it's an obstacle. And I don't think that working in the public sector, with all of our regulations and guidelines necessarily makes that an easier obstacle to overcome. It is a reality. Everything down to, it's not as though we can just hire somebody for a couple of periods a day because we have a rotating schedule, so they wouldn't have a set schedule even if they wanted to go continue to work in the private sector. So there are a lot of obstacles there. We just have to try to think on our feet, be creative, and continue to additionally, some of it comes with building relationships with people that are already on our staff that have the skills and knowledge to do things, but might need additional authorizations, which maybe sounds like something that you went through, where we can, as a district, support their efforts to get those CTE credentials that they might not already otherwise possess, but they're qualified or can become qualified to teach those things. So we've done that too. Take people that are already within our system that might have a different credential and can qualify for other credentials and help them work towards that. That's another creative way that we've got. But yes, it's an absolute obstacle for us.
Yeah, that's a huge deal. We run the credentialing for the North State, the 9 northern counties, and so whether we're special ed credential, regular ed credential, or CTE credential, and it's not that there's not people out there that are willing to do it. It's just that when they look at what they have to do to become certified and credentialed, it's a big obstacle for them. And so, give you an example. I've got a friend up in Susanville. He's been a biology teacher at the high school level for 25 years. He's a licensed contractor. Every summer he builds houses, and then they said, well, can you do some construction trades for us? They said, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Well, then to get him a credential is like, jumping through hoops that's absolutely ridiculous. Like, the guy's got 25 years, pedagogy, teaching experience, plus all of the construction trade stuff, and he's gonna have a really hard time getting a credential. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So we have a lot of work to be done at the state level in regards of making people credentialed without, ruining their lives in the process.
Well, it'd be great too if you had a program where, you could teach, like, say, welding for 2 years and then get your CTE credential basically by teaching it for a couple of years and getting that experience too by teaching it and working with industry.
Yeah, and having a mentor, making sure that you're doing that, because you do have to have the teaching pedagogy. I think that's important, and you've got to have the other, the CTE background as well. But I think there's much more efficient ways to do it than what the state is now expecting.
Okay, I don't mean to cut it short, but I do know that a couple of superintendents have other meetings to go to. And Rich, Ty and I are talking for you, with our funds, not say the federal funds, to go with your other package.
Well, I just wanted to thank our panelists to taking time to come out and speak to us, and we're going to wrap this up. If you need to take a quick break before Titan comes back in and sets up again, and thank you again for answering these questions.